Hey, lover boy, nobody's working for the weekend right now. It's a Dose of Buckley Live for Friday, April 24th, 2020. Thank you for joining us today. Joining me, I guess. There's not really an us involved today, but I did want to start off tonight's show by saying that sadly, not really though, this will probably be the last one of these types of shows for a little while. The format hasn't really quite taken off the way I hoped it would, and if anything, it looks like it's somewhat damaging to a Dose of Buckley views-wise, which I obviously don't care that much about. I put out stupid videos all the time that are off-brand for my channel. If you guys saw my April Fool's video this year, the Movies Made Woke, or, videos I've done in the past, the Jason's Opinions videos, and things like that are not really what I normally do, but I think that if I'm going to post something on my main channel, it should probably be something that the bulk of my audience is actually interested in. And, 8,500 views of a live show tells me that it's not what the bulk of my audience is interested in. So instead, I think I'm going to go back to doing any live streams on Twitch. So just so you know, live streams on Discord and things like that, it's not going away entirely, but I'm going to do them on Twitch. They probably won't be weekly. And they'll be less formatted than this. So I'm not going to do a show and all that kind of stuff. But for those of you that are interested in the caller aspect of the show with Discord and all that, we're still going to do that. So for announcements of when those will happen, make sure that you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, or of course on Patreon. And I'll be letting you guys know there. And in the Patreon Discord, in the regular Discord, I'll be still making announcements as to when those might happen. So if I was going to do one, say, on a Saturday afternoon, I would message everybody in the announcements channel and just say, hey guys, going to be doing a live stream in a few hours. It's going to happen at this time or whatever. So feel free to join me, and I'll give you the Twitch link, which is twitch.tv/doseofbuckley. So you could go on there and certainly continue to do this type of thing. We'll just do a sort of hangout type of thing, which I think, if it's not going to get that many views anyway, I think that's probably going to be more interesting in terms of the live show. Now, not to say we're going to completely stop doing a Dose of Buckley live. I may still do them on occasion, just not going to be a weekly thing like this anymore. And I think I want to put that effort into something closer to my regular format. Maybe I'll do the odd micro dose through the week, like the Pope bit that I did last week on the live show, or the bit that I'm going to do live today. I could have done fully produced instead and probably reached a much larger part of my audience than this will. If you guys saw, I posted the Professor Jake Paul follow-up. That was originally from a live show, and I posted it as an actual video, and it got like 5 times more the views than this did, right? So I think that if I'm going to do that, I want to reach my audience. I have an audience. I want them to actually see the content. It's not about monetization or things like that, obviously, because I don't monetize my videos anyway. So it's not about things like that. It's really just about having my audience see the things that I'm making. And I think that's, more interesting for me. I think that it's more interesting for them that you don't have to wade through hours of live shows to hear the parts that you want to hear, right? So, but then again, like I said, we're going to still hang out on Twitch. I'm still going to be active in the Discord on both the Patreon exclusive channel as well as the general. And we'll still have some just free form talking on air about who the fuck knows what, right? So that'll be fun. But in the meantime, we are going to do this show tonight. So how do you participate in the show? That's how, by being on discord.gg/KHZB, the number 4, capital M, small b. And, as I've mentioned before, I'm not going to put a link, because if you're too stupid to type this into a browser, then you're probably too stupid for me to talk to, and I'm not interested in your opinion anyway. So that's the link. I'm going to have it on screen a few more times later, I should say. But how do you get chosen as a caller? Well, join the Discord. Number 2, make sure your mic works. There is a general voice chat where you can go in there. People are in there. You can just say, hey, is my voice chat working? Is my microphone working? They'll say yes. Or maybe they'll say, hey, I can't hear you if you're talking, or whatever, right? So make sure that your mic is actually working. If you use push to talk or anything like that, if you don't know, go and check your mic settings in Discord. Then type pick me or something like that in the general channel. We'll talk about what tonight's topic is going to be. And so when I show you the topic, I'll ask for your opinion on the topic, and you can type that into the general chat. And then I might pick you if you are also in the lobby, which is step 4. Join the lobby channel. And if I'm interested in talking to you, then I will move you to the Buckley chat to be a caller. What I'm asking you, I know that this is a big ask and probably going to get ignored anyway. Do not spam the fucking channel being like, oh, I want to be on, I want to be on, I want to be on. Because I will ignore you then, and I might ban you then. So don't do that, because it's very annoying. So that's just basically my conditions there. Let's talk about what tonight's topic is going to be first. Number 1. Well, it's the only topic today. Are entertainers responsible for the behavior of their audience? So we're going to talk about stan culture, and we're going to talk about, how much does the entertainer contribute to that, and how much is it their responsibility to try and curb it, or at the very least, perhaps try to not condone it, or things like that. Or should they condone it? Or should they be getting in there and saying, you know what, fuck it, launch my audience that I've built at various targets that I don't like. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And we also, I didn't put the slide back in here, but I am going to do a version perhaps at the end of Q&A Russian Roulette, where you guys will be able to ask me questions, but we're going to do it very similar to how you get chosen as a caller. So I'm going to ask you to put your questions in the general chat when we get to that point. And then once we get to that point, you can ask the question. And if I like the question, I will bring you on air, and then you can ask it to me again, and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm looking for there. But before we get to the good old question and answer and the topic of the day, here's our little bit for you. Do you remember radio? Yeah, the background noise that you put on in your car on your way to work because it's free and it's built into your car, or that they'd have on at work because some manager thought, well, this is an effective way to keep morale up, or just because they also want free background noise for when customers come in. Well, it still exists, and it's more insufferable than ever. Now, I don't know about your local radio station. This is just what I'm hearing from other people in other areas, as well as, of course, our own local radio stations here. But every station here is nearly 24/7 COVID mentions. And I get it, okay? It's pretty much all that's going on right now. But every announcer has to mention it during every fucking break, right? Like, one local announcer here is working from home, starts every break with, hey, I'm broadcasting live from the Quarantina Cantina. And sure, you know what? I'm guilty of it to a certain degree. I mean, I'm basically doing it right now. And I gotta imagine that during the Spanish flu, people didn't have a lot of other topics to talk about either. But what's even more ridiculous is every radio commercial also has to mention it. Like, so many of them start with, in these uncertain times, and talk about how they're here for you before trying to sell you a fucking car or a fridge or who the fuck knows what, right? So I've got a couple today that I recorded that I'm going to play for you. And, you'll get a chance to hear these in case you're not listening to the radio right now and you're not getting a chance to hear this stellar work.
At Visions Electronics, your safety is our #1 priority. But we're still committed to saving you money on electronics. During our inventory sell-off, get what you and your family needs to work, learn, and entertain at an even lower price. With increased savings in every department, with up to 12 months to pay and no interest. Shop online at visions.ca and have it delivered, or call the store, ask some questions, set up an easy curbside pickup. Visions Electronics, keeping homes connected all across Canada.
So I love the somber music at the start, and your safety is our #1 priority. But we're still committed to saving you money. What they mean is that they're still committed to taking your money. Followed by mentions of getting what your family needs. This is the type of ad that the fucking food bank would run on the radio. But this is a place that sells computer monitors and TVs. Like, fuck. And they're like, whoa, we're here for your family. Jesus Christ. And then they all go on like this, where they make it sound like it's such a charitable, thing that they're open for you, that in these uncertain times, and that they want to be making sure that your family is safe. They don't give a fuck about your family being safe. They want to make sure that they can still run their business. And you know what? That's fine. But this one gets even fucking more heavy-handed. And I've edited the business name because I don't want you guys going and harassing them, which, by the way, plays pretty nicely into this week's topic. I don't want you harassing Visions Electronics either, by the way. I left them because they are a national chain here in Canada. So whatever, if they're going to put out stuff like this. But these other people that I'm going to show you right now are local, and I don't want you harassing them. I don't want you harassing anyone that I ever talk about. But either way, here is the ad.
3 generations of family business teaches you the importance of family. Many of you are home keeping the people you love safe, and we are too. Families, our own, our employees, and our customers are at the very heart of this company. And right now, for the safety of everyone, all stores are closed. But emergencies happen, so we have a plan to help you if you need us. For example, a mother recently left us a message. Her freezer had stopped working and she needed a new one. Imagine a mother, children, and a broken freezer. Could we help? Absolutely, and we did. Appliances are machines. If they need to be replaced, can help. Whatever you need, call or shop online at from the safety of your home. We've also implemented our threshold delivery service to maintain social distancing. From the family to yours. Be safe, stay home, and we'll get through this together.
We'll get through this together. Whew. First off, this is way too long. It's a minute long, which I think in the States actually is pretty common anyway. These types of commercials, they're real boring and they're a minute long, just voice. They actually normally have a jingle and all sorts of other things, but obviously they're working from home as well. You can tell by the mic quality that it's just fucking terrible, right? They're clearly doing it in his kitchen or something, but how much thicker can you lay it on? Imagine a mother, her children, and a broken freezer. Yeah, that sucks. So guess what? You sold her a new freezer. Again, this sounds like charity, but it's not. You, a business, sold a person a freezer that they needed. And I'm told most of these companies, including this one, won't actually deliver the freezer into the home. They talk about their social distancing and their threshold delivery. So they'll just drop it in your garage or at the front porch. So I hope those children had strong backs, because I guess they had to help drag that fucker into the house if they wanted a place to store their pizza pockets and their fucking chicken strips. But of course, there are some places who actually aren't mentioning it at all in their ads, but end up being even more tone deaf because of it. Here is a great Tim Hortons ad that I came across. Tim Hortons, by the way, for those of you in my American audience or elsewhere, Tim Hortons is a donut chain, probably the most popular, or at least one time was the most popular, most famous donut and coffee chain in Canada.
Here's the top 10 reasons to get 10 Timbits free. They're fun, awesome, tasty, shareable, delicious, snackable, craveable, dippable, delectable, and free. Spend $10, get 10 Timbits free. Offer on qualifying purchases of $10 before taxes at participating restaurants for a limited time. Not valid for delivery orders. Other terms apply.
So Timbits are donut holes. For my American audience, my American audience, Timbits are donut holes. In England or Australia, I don't know what you have. I would guess in England, maybe they're called Donny Holies or something like that. And in Australia, they're called fucking cunt stuffers. That was a terrible Australian accent. I apologize immediately. But either way, you know what's a great idea? Encouraging people to share food out of a box in a pandemic. Let's see if we can hear that part again.
Awesome, tasty, shareable, delicious, snack.
Shareable, right there.
Shareable.
Shareable. Let's just do that again.
Shareable.
Yeah, shareable. Fucking hell. And I don't know if you guys have ever eaten a Timbit before, or if you guys have boxes of donut holes, but there is like no way of not touching 3 of them in a box to get the flavor that you want. So your grubby hands are getting all over them. And then they say that this deal is not available for delivery, which encourages people that if they want to take advantage of this, they should leave their houses. Fucking good call, Timmy's. In a pandemic, supposed to be told to stay home, and here you are advertising. Fucking go out, come here, get your fucking Timbits so that you can get your 10 free Timbits. And 10 free Timbits is a joke, too. I gotta tell you right now, because Timbits are, I don't know, they're pennies. They're not pennies, but they're not $1. It's not $1 each. It's not $10 for 10 Timbits that you're getting for free here, okay? 10 Timbits is, I think, like $2 or something to that effect. So it's not like, you're getting a huge deal by running out there to do this. But I honestly think that a better approach would be to just do business as usual. You're an electronics store or a furniture store. Just say, our storefronts are closed to the general public right now, but you can shop online on our website and detail your delivery or your pickup options. Done. You don't have to tell me that you're here for my family or that you care about my safety. Because, did you not before? And will you when this is all over? Because I don't recall people doing ads before, like, if you recently lost your job, we're here for you with no interest payments for 12 months while you get back on your feet. Because of course they weren't, right? Now they're taking advantage of a fucked up time for everyone to make it seem like they care, so that when this is all over, you'll go, oh, they were one of the good companies. When ultimately, they're just manipulating you in a different way. So, companies, you sell products, people still need products, there are still plenty of people working who can buy products. We get it. So just fucking sell them. No one's going to judge you if you don't put "in these uncertain times" and mention my family in your ads. Just tell me what you got, where I can buy it, and let's skip the bullshit concern that a company who sells couches or laptops has for my well-being. Absolutely ridiculous. So, once again, we are doing this thing, a Dose of Buckley Live. You can call in. I've got the instructions on the screen for the people that would listen to this on Spotify later. That's, going to be useless information for you. But again, join the Discord. Make sure your mic is working through whatever means that you can. I have a general channel set up for that. So you can go in there and talk to people and they'll talk back and you'll know that your mic works. We'll talk about, again, the topic, but type your opinion for the topic and we will do that. Then you can join the lobby and then I will move people to the Buckley chat to be a caller if I'm actually interested in talking to you. Got a few people there in the lobby. It looks like perhaps more people than last week are interested in getting in on this this topic today. And before we get to the topic, again, of course, I do have to mention my Patreon subscribers. And if you want to support me, then you can do so by going to patreon.com/doseofbuckley. Would love to have you on there. Bonus content every week. So right now I've been putting up a regular piece of content every week, every Saturday or Sunday, depending on where you live. And on Patreon, I've been posting a bonus piece of content exclusive for my Patreon subscribers. So, and I know that I've said it in the past, or that it is in the not goals, but the tiers right now, that there is a $5 tier and a $10 tier, and you have to be in one of those in order to get the bonus content. But as I've mentioned in some other posts there on Patreon, I am somewhat lenient with that right now, waiving that during the current, in these uncertain times, because I understand that people don't have $5 to throw my way right now, but may want to support me and may enjoy, a little extra fucking laugh throughout the week. So, hopefully if you can support me, would love to have you on there. And the $5 and $10 tiers do also get you access to the Patreon Discord, which you can go in there and chat with some people. I do sometimes go in there a little more often than the general channel on Discord to just have a fucking chat with some people and that sort of thing. So hopefully, if you can, great. If you can't, totally understand it as well. And again, as I mentioned at the top of the show here, not going to be doing a Dose of Buckley live this format, but I am still going to stream on Twitch from time to time. And I'm also going to try and use that extra time to focus on extra bonus content instead, which would be, my more well-produced content that would be more enjoyable for you guys, so you don't have to sift through an hour and a half of me yammering. And I think that you know what? I totally get it. People have subscribed to me for my content, for what I do on YouTube. And you know what? Maybe they don't want to hear a whole bunch of other people's opinions on things. And I get that as well. Not to sound egotistical, but I don't know. I actually don't. It'd be nice to be able to to poll my subscribers and say, hey, why aren't you listening to A Dose of Buckley Live? Is it too long? Is that what's going on? Or what exactly is it that just doesn't interest you about this show? But either way, like I said, not going to kill our fun, not going to kill Patreon's fun as well. We're still going to hang out, still going to do a little call-in show and things like that on Twitch, and it'll be fine. So, once again, the topic, are entertainers responsible for the behavior of their audience? So this is the point. I know I've seen some people still already commenting on Discord, but this is where I want to hear from you. So what is your opinion on that? So some entertainers have fan bases that are more toxic than others, with groups of them mobilizing to troll or attack the fans of other entertainers or other people online. So what I'm asking you is, how much responsibility should an entertainer take for the behavior of their fans? Have you ever been trolled or attacked? Have you ever trolled or attacked someone online in the name of an entertainer? If it's my audience, I know some of you have. Very specifically, I remember when I did the Scumbags of the Internet, famously about the person that went by the name of Carla. You guys remember the famous, I guess people claim I was defending Gian Gomeshi, which I was not defending Gian Gomeshi, not at all, but I was pointing at a different level of behavior that was incorrect. And so that whole video, but I remember then people went and seeked out that article that I trashed in my video to leave a whole bunch of stupid comments on there. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, that's not what Scumbags of the Internet is supposed to be about, and it's not what I don't condone it at all. And finally, what should an entertainer do about their worst fans? Another example, as I'm waiting for people to get in here, is that Opie and Anthony used to do this whole thing called Jocktober. And I don't know enough about Jocktober as to what the call to action was from Opie and Anthony, from them to their audience, but I do know that almost every single time, so what Jocktober was, is they would find some audio, they would record audio from radio stations, or people would send them audio, or I don't exactly know how it all worked entirely, but they would find some audio from some local radio station somewhere, and then they would mock it. And then their fans would go to the Facebook pages of those local radio stations in different markets and just flood it, just basically shut it down. And it would just fucking destroy that Facebook page for a good week or so. And then the next time they would do Jocktober, then their fan base would mobilize and move on to the next one. They would ignore the old one. Doesn't matter anymore. Who cares? And now they would attack a different one. So that's the kind of thing. And that's who we're talking about today. And so let's start. I am going to start with someone that I've talked to before, because I know that their mic works and I know that we can have a quick chat here about this. So we're going to talk to Space Doll X first. Space Doll X. Space Doll X, are you there? Can you hear me? Now, I know, by the way, that people can hear me, because this time I did actually check my microphone today. So, but Space Doll X apparently was not ready. So we'll take someone else and we'll talk to, how about this person? Oh, they're not ready to go. Let's see if Trash Teen. You said it's a complicated situation, so you got some opinions on this.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Am I good?
You are good. I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, God, I was not prepared. Well, like, I feel like entertainers to be held somewhat accountable for what their fans do. Like if you, choose to, speak negatively about someone, well, anyway, you shouldn't be so surprised when your fans just start attacking them. And it's like, You should like put at the start of the video, like or something. I feel like,
Right.
If, like,
now we're talking about YouTube here, but for example, or my example would be something like Taylor Swift, or even better. Now I don't know how much they're aware of it to a certain degree because I don't know what their online presence is or what they're allowed. Is someone like BTS.
like
Where they have their army, right? Which is, I don't know who came up with that name. I suppose it's relatively appropriate, but the BTS army attacks whenever someone says anything bad about BTS online, or whenever there is someone who they believe is in direct competition with BTS, right?
Well, this is a complicated situation because, like, no matter what fan base there is, there's always gonna be those specific people who are like mega fans who just like who like freak out at any mention that their like idol could be somewhat bad.
Right.
It's always been something that's been hard to contain. So like, it's definitely a gray area that like. But like you can't just like tell those fans like you're wrong. It's not like that simple as that.
But ultimately, so ultimately you feel that they can only do so much, but they'll they should maybe say something, but ultimately it's not really up to them to contain it. That's what you're basically saying.
I guess it's complicated though. It's not an easy thing to resolve.
Well, fair enough. Well, Trash Teen, thank you for joining us, and we'll move on to someone else here. All right, so, someone says, BTS isn't allowed to do anything online. It's always their managers, so that's a pretty bad example. I mean, I don't know how much BTS is even allowed to, because I don't know how much you guys know about K-pop, but for the most part, K-pop artists are pretty well controlled, if you know what I mean, right? Like they're told what to do. They're in some cases told whether or not they're allowed to date, or what they're allowed to wear in public, or these types of things. Very manufactured compared to even regular pop music here, which is pretty manufactured already. So I don't know, but let's take another caller. We got Ellie. Ellie, what's your thoughts on this? If you're there, which you might not be. Apparently not. Ellie asked me to pick her, but I guess doesn't have a whole lot of interest here. So Ellie, are you there? I saw your thing flashing green. Unfortunately, we are going to have to move along if I can't hear you.
Oh my god!
Oh, there
Shit.
you are.
Hi.
Hi, Ellie. You just beat the buzzer there. I was about to kick you. So,
No, I can't hear you. My volume might be gone.
I see. Well, so what's your opinion on the topic here?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. Honestly, I do agree it's complicated. Here is where I get a little bit frustrated, though. Half of the people, I think, who go out, who spew all of this abusive shit, I don't think they're even fans of the shit most of the time. I legitimately think they're people, their lives are fucking sad, and they're like, oh, people, like, someone's hating on this, I'm gonna go attack this person. So, in that way, when stuff like that happens, it kind of makes me say, well, no, fuck it. Those people don't have any the celebrities don't have any responsibility in that situation, because that's legitimately just a person looking for negativity on the internet. Like, just, it doesn't matter who it's for or what cause it's behind, you know?
Fair enough. So you feel that, like, they might not even be that big a fan. It's just more of a mob mentality thing. Like, they see a movement happening and they're like, oh, I got to jump in on this.
I mean, I would go as far as to say there's probably a few people who literally, like I said, they're not fans of the thing. They legitimately, like, they're trolls, basically. They're legitimately just hurling shit for the sake of it. I think some people do get very passionate about that sort of thing, but again, I still don't really think it's up to the celebrity. They're not there to instruct you on how to behave on the internet.
Okay.
Really, the parents should be fucking doing that. I am allowed to swear, right? I know it's a really stupid question.
Yes, you can swear on this. This is not the real radio. It's just the internet. No one gives a shit.
Awesome.
So,
cool.
but yeah, so now, so would you say that like they should be now? How about this option? How about this scenario instead? Right. So you'll see, one celebrity fighting with another on Twitter publicly, and then all of a sudden, all of their fans start tweeting and harassing the person that they're fighting with. Do you feel that it's a celebrity's sort of duty to be like, hey, I got this. This is my fight. Like, stay the fuck out of it. Or do you think, you know what, that's the internet and that's how it works?
I've got to be honest, I think when push comes to shove, I do feel more on the side of it is how the internet works. I think it is a helpful thing. Like, it's nice when the celebrity's like, no, I can like deal with this. But half the time the people aren't going to fucking listen. And I guarantee the people who are the most passionate fans, they're going to go after them either way, because they probably see that person saying, oh, don't defend me, this is my fight, and then like, oh, they're so nice that I'm going to defend them even harder. Like, I don't buy that the worst offenders who send death threats and shit are going to stop just because the celebrity says, no, I can handle this myself.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, I appreciate your call then, Ellie.
No worries.
We'll take I guess I can't. I thought Hugh Hefnuts. That's this person who's on Patreon, so I'll give them a shout out. Hugh Hefnuts with a $sign said they have an opinion, and since someone else will likely say it, I'll just spoil it. You can't control what other people do, so unless it's an order for a direct attack on someone, they shouldn't be held responsible. So that's essentially what was just said there as well, so fair enough. We'll see if we can't grab a few more people. And of course, some people have been mentioning, just so our good friend Norbert is back here on the show today. And I just want to give a shout out to Norbert. Everyone loves Norbert. He's the unofficial mascot, I guess, of A Dose of Buckley Live. And so we'll see if we can't get Norbert on in a little bit, though. I don't know if I really care about his opinion on this particular subject, but we're going to have a chance to do some Q&A stuff, and I think that Norbert, will have him on for that. He's always got some interesting questions for me. So let's go to Sandrina, who says she has a different take on this, who she believes that there should be a little bit more responsibility on the behalf of the entertainer. So Sandrina, are you there? I'm hearing white noise, but I'm not hearing you, Sandrina, so I don't know if you're... Oh, hi. There you are.
Sorry. For some reason, the mic got muted. Just let me check out of the Discord thing, because it's typing a lot of push-to-talk hotkey thingies right now.
Well, Sandrina, while you're doing that, I'll just mention again, you mentioned that you feel that the entertainers do have some extra responsibility than some of our other callers have mentioned.
Yeah, I think this is so funny, because I was commenting something on Twitter, I think, under one of your tweets, and it was talking about, I don't know what it was about, but basically the fact that you don't have to agree with everything that an entertainer says. And I was saying something like, I've been following your content for years, and I haven't agreed with everything you said, but obviously most of it, otherwise I wouldn't find it entertaining, I guess. But I realized that I was avoiding the word fan. Like, I didn't want to say I've been a fan for years, because I feel like there's such a negative stigma attached to the word by now. I didn't want to call myself a fan of something, because I just feel like fan culture is immediately attributed to negative things and people trash talking. And yeah, as far as the entertainers themselves go, I really feel that you can not choose your audience, but you can control them in a way. They listen to you, and you can always just tell them what not to do, I guess. Obviously, if you're the one, edging them on, telling them to go somewhere and trash talk people, then that's shitty. But if you're not doing that and you just have opinions and then people take it on themselves to go and trash talk someone, you can just distance yourself from that and say, this is not me. I don't want to be associated with that. And these people who do that, yeah, I think it's your responsibility to at least clearly distance yourself from behavior like that, because that's childish. I think it's mostly teenagers anyway who do it. And I think you have to draw a very clear line between I have maybe a differing opinion, or I don't like this other person who's also in the public eye, but you don't have to send your troops, or they don't have to feel like it's their calling now to go and trash talk someone. Like with your scumbag of the internet, you told us, you related to us content of something they did, and it was funny, but I didn't feel called upon to go then and tell them that I hated them or whatever, that they're trash. I just laughed about the content, and that's that. But that's, yeah, also I think it's an age thing also. But yeah, I very much feel that entertainers are definitely obliged to distance themselves and not encourage this kind of behavior. And sorry for rambling here. Twitch does this thing where if you don't do that, if you don't discourage fans from being shitty, basically, you get in trouble. And I saw some people saying Twitch sucks and whatever here, but I think that's sort of something you can do. Like, if you don't discourage people from being shitty to other people because of you, then that's sort of your fault, I feel.
Now, do you think that some creators or some entertainers are afraid to do that because they don't want to in some way alienate their probably most loyal fans, who potentially are the ones who are spending, perhaps the most money, or perhaps going to their concerts, or actually streaming their work on Spotify, or in the case of YouTubers, supporting them either through Patreon or through ads or whatever the case may be? Do you think that maybe some just say, fuck it, I'm not getting involved in this. If they want to be dicks, you know what? They're the ones giving me money, so by all means, let them do whatever the fuck they want.
I feel it's a question of how big you are. If you're like a Taylor Swift, Katy Perry sort of famous level, then obviously you can't control what the people who follow you do, and I think they don't care either, because you couldn't even try to keep up with it, and they have enough fans. If it's a smaller audience, I think maybe, but then again, I think it's about setting an example and not giving people the idea that you would like them to, I don't know, pick up pickaxes and torches for you and run off and insult people. So I just think you should always lead with a good example and good opinions, and just tell. I don't know, you don't have to always say, like someone mentioned, say it at the beginning of the video. I don't know if that's maybe a bit weird, but just don't encourage this type of behavior. If you see it, if it gets reported to you, you can then tell your fans, this is not what I meant by this. This is not what I wanted. Why would you just take it upon yourselves to, I don't know, diss people? Yeah. So I think it stems from the entertainer being encouraging most of the times.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, Sandrina.
Sure. Thank you, June.
All right. Osiris says that they have some opinions from an anthropological perspective and has actively participated in this mentality. So, Osiris, are you there?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
You
can hear me?
I can. So I'm going to just crank your volume up a little bit here. But what do you got to say about this?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say that thank you for picking me. I really like your channel and I have been watching you for a long time. So thank you for that. And second, now about this topic, I do agree with some points that have been said before, especially about age. Um, I am an anthropologist. Well, I'm studying anthropology, and one of the things that I analyze a lot is mob behavior in the internet. And one of the things that I have analyzed is how, well, as we know, the internet is built on echo chambers. We know that people choose an echo chamber, you shout your opinion or your liking in that echo chamber, and then people repeat it back to you, and you feel like you're right because of it. And in the moment that you feel that someone invades that echo chamber, you become hostile to it because in a way you feel like you're entitled to that space and you don't want it to be invaded.
Right. I
Yes,
always
and what
enjoy.
happened?
Oh, sorry to cut you off there. This is a little bit off topic, but I always enjoy this on Reddit where someone will come to a very niche subreddit, and then they'll have an opinion against that subreddit's, whatever the niche is, right? So let's say it's a video game, right? And it's, I don't even know, just because Animal Crossing is really popular right now. And I'm sure
Yes.
there's an Animal Crossing subreddit and someone goes on to that subreddit to be like, oh, this game's stupid. And then they get, of course, ganged up on, they get downvoted to shit and they get made fun of and they get told to go fuck themselves. And then they get mad. That's always my favorite part. Then they get upset, like, you walked into a lion's den and you said, you know what's stupid is lions. They're pretty fucking stupid. Hey. And then, oh, why are you biting me, lions? I don't know why. I'm just slapping you. I just came into this lion's den to slap you guys for a bit. Why are you biting me? But anyway, continue.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. I am an active user on Reddit. I'm not proud of that, but
None of us
I have
are.
been there, yeah, and I have noticed that behavior. I have actually participated in this discourse before, both from an academic perspective and a participatory perspective.
Okay.
And I feel like fandoms, just like other communities on the internet, are echo chambers, right? When you are in your fandom, you expect to be like accepted and you expect to be like understood and listened to. And what happens is that when you're an adult, you usually can tell the difference between a community on the internet and a community in real life. And you can tell, a hierarchy of importance between one and the other. But when you're a teenager, you are so desperate for looking for, belonging, and you are so desperate looking for somewhere that accepts you and people that will be your friends or your family, that you do anything for them and you do anything to be accepted by them. And my theory on this is in the case of entertainers or any public figure, in this case, is that you see this public figure that you admire, this celebrity, this entertainer, not as what they are. You don't see them as humans. You don't see them as just entertainers. You see them almost like a family figure, like a father, like a mother. You see them like someone you want to, you want them to accept you. You want them to embrace you, and that's why fans will always go crazy when they are nearby their favorite entertainer or someone they admire. So in the moment that you insult this fandom, this thing they admire, they feel it as like an attack on themselves. They feel like you're attacking them directly. So of course they will start to lash out, especially if they are young and they exactly don't know what they're doing with their emotions. So now this is of course from the fandom's behavior. And what's going to happen is that from the entertainer's perspective, of course, we have to consider that they're human beings, right? As a human being,
We don't have to, but
yeah, I mean, we don't exactly have to, but wait a second. We don't have to exactly consider them, but what I mean is that they are definitely human. I think some of them are at least, and but people don't see them. They just see the public persona. They just see what they are on the internet or in the media. So of course they just see what the person wants them to see. They just see what the person wants them to believe, and they feel like they know them. And I think you have discussed that even in one of the in a certain episode. I don't remember, that there are people that feel like they know you, and they feel like because they just watch your videos, and I think that's frequent.
Right.
And
I've spoken about that. I've spoken about fandoms as well being, perhaps, awful, essentially, that they shouldn't exist. But I wanted to, so I don't mean to cut you off on that point, but I did want to ask you before I let you go here, is you said you actively participated in it from the other side. So do you have a sort of anecdote there about where you...
Yes.
like you were basically, you got caught up in the mob mentality of it all.
Yes, and sorry, I am very passionate about this. And so, what have I done? I'm not exactly proud of this, but I used to be like a huge fan of PewDiePie.
Right.
You know? Yes, exactly. You already know where this is going.
We were all 7 years old once. I mean, when I was 7 years old, he didn't exist, but nevertheless.
Yeah, no. I was a fan of PewDiePie, and of course I laughed at PewDiePie. I was like 12. I was like 11 or something, and of course I was finding my way. I was looking at communities, and of course you see a loud guy on the internet that is getting everything that you want from playing video games, and you of course admire him, and you of course want to be like part of it. And of course a lot of people criticize PewDiePie, and rightfully so, because he was annoying. You look at the videos from him nowadays, and they're super annoying. And I remember one of the things that people got so upset about were the PewDiePie fans, and I was a part of them. And of course I left it for a moment, and then I came back to this new era of PewDiePie with his feud with T-Series. And I remember this because I participated in it, but then I left it behind because, it became a very us versus them mentality. PewDiePie, this Western YouTuber who speaks English and who wants to represent this huge independency on YouTube versus this huge Indian company that nobody really knows. And of course, you have the people using these sort of arguments in order to bash on not only T-Series, which I don't have anything against or in favor. They're just there for me. But I noticed that they were bashing a lot, for example, on Indian people, because PewDiePie actually made songs criticizing India as a way to criticize also T-Series, and their fans, being really young, took that of course, PewDiePie is against India. And of course there is the other spectrum that said PewDiePie is racist, which I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I just don't know. I don't know him as a person, right? And I remember this because it was very interesting. It was very divisive. It really divided the internet into who was in favor and who was not. And I saw all that unravel, and at some point it got out of control. And it got so out of control that PewDiePie had to actively go and say, please stop. This is where it's stopping. And that's where I think that creators do have certain responsibility, because like I said before, they're the leaders of the echo chamber. They are the parent figure of the echo chamber. So, of course, if the leader of this echo chamber, if the celebrity doesn't say anything, then you can't really blame them for their fans' behavior. But if they're actively saying, do this, do that, behave like this, behave like this, then I think they're held responsible, because their fans look up to them and they want that approval from them. Do you get me?
I do. Well, I thank you. It's a lot of information there, Osiris. And I think that, so ultimately, yeah, obviously they shouldn't be egging it on, and they should be having some sort of restraint in what they're doing to, I guess, guide their audience into that level of hate. But at the same time, I guess people are going to do what they're going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially on the internet. You have no control over people on the internet, and especially if they're young. So, yeah, I think I'll go off now, because many people want to talk, and I don't want to, occupy this space for them. But thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Osiris. All right. Well, I think that, we've pretty much got the opinions that we're going to get there. Ultimately, I didn't find anyone who feels that celebrities should in fact, actively encourage their audience to go and attack people. So perhaps that's good. I don't know if that means that at least my audience that's watching or commenting today are somewhat rational human beings, but that's good news. But ultimately, they are somewhat responsible, or you feel that they are somewhat responsible, but at the same time, you can't control every single person. So that means we're going to move on to a little bit of Q&A. So in this case, here's what I want you guys to do is, for those of you who are in the lobby channel, feel free to comment your question. And I will, if I like your question, if it's something that I'm interested in speaking about, then we'll take that call. We'll see what's going on there. But ultimately, we'll see how it goes. So this one ties right in. We didn't talk to Swarm earlier. I talked to Swarm in the other chat earlier, but Swarm wanted to talk about the future of terrestrial radio. So Swarm, you had a question about that.
Yes, I did, sir.
All right. Well, Swarm, what's the question?
So, I guess everyone knows what radio is. It's the thing in your car that you have. You have like FM and AM radio. Maybe you have like Sirius radio. Everyone listens to it. At least they've tried it out. And it's like a generational thing. Maybe your parents grew up with it. Maybe you just listen to it from time to time. But my question is concerning the future of radio. With the rise of podcasts and like Spotify and like those kind of sources, is there a future for radio? I remember one of your first series on YouTube was how not to get a job in the radio industry. I thought that was pretty eye-opening for someone like me, like how those personalities get on the air and stuff. So as someone who has worked in that field, do you think there's a future for radio, or like how do you think the future will look like for it?
Yeah, I think that people have been calling for the death of radio for years, decades, really, pretty much the first time that the television was introduced and became popularized in homes in like the 50s or whatever. People were saying, oh, well, radio's not going to last much longer. It's not going to last. And yet here we are. And I think that part of radio's longevity ultimately really does have to do with the fact that it's there. For the most part, most listening is done in the car, or some people listen to it in their garage, or people listen to it because it happens to be on at the dentist's office or wherever the case may be, right? And at the moment, there is just so much. I think it's actually going to get worse. Not at the moment, but there has been for some time now. There's so much selection in all of those other aspects that you talk about in terms of podcasts, in terms of different streaming music services, in terms of choosing your own music and the amount of work that really has to go into that. And some people really enjoy doing that, and that's always going to cut into radio. It certainly has. I'm not saying that radio is the same fucking force that it was 30 years ago or 40 years ago or anything like that. But at the same time, I think, I kind of equate it to the jokes before of how many people would go on Netflix, flip around, look for something new to watch, spend half an hour looking for something, and then put the fucking Office back on that they've watched 20 times before, right? Because A, there's the familiarity in it, which radio offers fucking better than anyone else if you're familiar with how they program music. And second, it's just that it's there. It's you don't have to think too much about it. You don't have to work too hard for it. All you got to do, turn on your car, press the button, and there's the radio. You don't have to create your own playlists or download a bunch of music onto your phone or anything like that, because that's the other part of it. The other challenge, of course, is that we're still not there as a society because people have been calling, again, the next wave of people calling for the death of regular radio was when, there's so much options with online radio stations now and shit like that. And it's like, yeah, great, but like, what the fuck am I going to choose? Like, what one should I pick for one? And two, how am I going to, so what? I'm going to waste my data Like, not everyone has a shitload of data. My phone, I've got about, I think, 2 gig. People are going to be like, are you fucking joking? But yeah, I got a real shitty data plan. I got like 2 gigs of data on my phone. There's no way that in times where, back when, you know, we drove cars and stuff, but when you actually had to go to your job and do all these types of things, and for people who still obviously are, you know, that's not an option to do that every single day. So that's where I think, because now in the radio business, the reason they believe that they will last forever is because radio is so local. However, that's not the case anymore anyway. Most of these local radio stations are simulcasting some other fucking program from some other, you know, state or city or whatever, and it's not really local anymore anyway. And, you know, you never get the news on demand when you want it. You can just you can go on Twitter and get, you know, local news from that local radio station's Twitter feed, or you can do that kind of thing, or you just get the local news from your local newspaper, and you can get all of that instantly. Or sometimes, we talked about Reddit, you just go on there if you really want to know that information, as opposed to having to wait for 5 songs and then an announcer telling you about what they watched on Netflix last night to finally maybe get, oh, by the way, there's a crash on, you know, the fucking I-90 or whatever the fuck, and it's between this place and this place, so you want to avoid that. But now, why do you need that when Google Maps and every other GPS system now will tell you whether there's a crash or not? So these things don't matter to the average person, but what matters to them is that there's something they can just go to whenever they want, and get that, just have some sort of entertainment, some sort of white noise on their drive to work.
Yeah. And like, you know, like they try to like reinvent radio over the past couple of years. Like they came out with like that HD radio thing, where like the quality's better. You can have like 6 channels on the same frequency, and you can have, you know, pictures in the car and like traffic and maps and data. And it's like, what's the point of that if I have it on the phone? Like, and half the time that thing doesn't work, because you have to have a very clear line of sight, because it's like a digital signal. It's not like an analog thing where you can have like a bit of static and you can hear it. So like, I don't see the point of that. And there's stuff like tune-in radio, which you can, you know, pick any station in the world and listen to. But like, I don't really use that. I don't think there's much variety. And like you're mentioning with the local radio, most of the stations nowadays, they're like corporately owned, you know, at least in the GTA, you know, there's like iHeartRadio and those kind of like companies.
Yeah,
they own,
Clear
you know,
Channel in the States.
Yeah, Clear Channel, all that stuff. It's like the same content half the time. It's like the same stories, the same like hosts. You know, they'll try to make it dynamic or something, but I just don't see the value in radio. Like, I don't know. I think at least for people my age, like younger people, they're just moving on to like Spotify and like Bluetooth in the car and stuff.
Right. No, I don't think, I mean, I don't think people who listen to the radio see the value in the radio other than there it is. Because ultimately, yeah, you talked about that too, being able to go on to listen to any station in the world or any station in the United States or in Canada. And I got to tell you, they're all pretty much the same. If you put on a top 40 radio station, you're getting the same top 40 songs. Maybe in LA, you're going to get a little bit more hip hop because they'll tolerate that on a top 40 station in LA versus, say, in somewhere in the Midwestern parts of the United States. But at the same time, it's pretty much the same. Go to a rock station, classic rock stations are playing the same, the same Zeppelin songs, the same AC/DC songs as every other classic rock radio station. Or you're getting starting to get more 90s mixed in with the classic rock, or you're getting these formats that are kind of like 90s and modern music, the 90s to now.
Yeah.
But they're all the same. They're all playing Smells Like Teen Spirit or fucking All Apologies or Even Flow. They're not playing anything different, and there's perfectly good reasons for that I don't want to continue on to like make this much longer. I'm going to try and get a few more callers in here, but that being said, there is, you know, there's not a whole lot of variety in terrestrial radio, but that's not what terrestrial radio is meant to provide. All it's meant to provide is some noise in the car and that sort of familiar sound that you get to enjoy. And, when you turn on that radio, you're going to hear a song that you know and that you probably like because you've heard it 8 million times.
Yeah.
So thanks, Swarm.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. It's time for my good pal, Norbert. Norbert has a question about whether anything should truly be allowed in comedy. So, Norbert, you're here. It's your day.
Right. So this was a question that I actually posed in your Discord server a little while back. This was not during a live chat, but now the reason that I have this question for you is because you couldn't tell from my Angry Beavers profile picture and my name being Norbert. I'm a member of the cartoon community online, and a lot of people in that community, a lot of them are very I should say they're very I guess more offended by very dark jokes or very, I guess, tasteless jokes, I guess. And the one example I gave when I posed the question a little while back, it was this joke in an episode of Modern Family Guy. Basically, there's this really horrible joke where Peter walks up to Lois and he takes a knife and says, "Hey Lois, if I want to kill myself, should I cut my wrist this way or this way?" And then Meg shouts, "Sideways for attention, long way for results." And a lot of people really, really hate that joke, and they think that that is horribly offensive. It's horribly offensive to suicidal people, and that could actually lead to people actually die because it tells you the right way to actually cut your wrist. So, do you think that even a joke like that, for as black and offensive as that, even that joke should exist, or do you think that that's too far?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a guy who has made at least certainly more than one joke about Ryan Dunn's death, as well as Paul Walker's death, in YouTube videos. So I think that, first of all, anyone that doesn't already know that, first of all, I don't know if you can't, this is getting into the semantics of killing yourself, but I don't know that you truly can't kill yourself by cutting your wrist, from wrist to wrist, as opposed to wrist to elbow. But that being said, I think that if someone wanted to, you can look that up on the internet. Here's an interesting, are you familiar with Chris Benoit, Norbert?
Oh, I'm not.
You're not familiar with Chris Benoit? Well, Chris Benoit was a professional wrestler who murdered his own wife and child before taking his own life. And it was a very, very dark time for professional wrestling, and a lot of information has gone specifically out about CTE and what part that may have played, so brain damage and things like that. And so I recently saw a docu-series called The Dark Side of the Ring that Vice does. Now, I hate to promote anything that Vice does, but anyway, they have this show called Dark Side of the Ring, and they did an episode about Chris Benoit. And one of the things that was very interesting is that Chris Benoit actually Googled how to break his own neck moments before killing himself. And the police found him dead on his own weight machine. He had wrapped a cord around his neck from the weights, put as much weight as possible down on it, let it go, pulled the pin, and broke his neck, hung himself.
Oh my gosh.
On his machine. Yeah, nice little Friday night light entertainment for you there, Norbert. But the point I'm getting to is that you could just look that up if that was really a thing that you were interested in doing. So now here's the thing: do not commit suicide. Hey, this is me being responsible to my audience here, but if you feel that you are at a brink like that, please talk to someone. Call, there's various helplines you can call, and there are various people that you can talk to, and that kind of thing. And definitely reach out for help, because that's something that you should definitely do. But anyway, the point was that Chris Benoit was very far past that, and he had considerable brain damage, and he'd already murdered his wife and child before doing this, I think he maybe then came to the idea of what the fuck he had done, and was like, okay, now I've got to fucking, I can't live with this. But at any rate, what was the point of all this dark jokes is that you can pretty much make fun of anything as long as you make it pretty generic, right? Like, because this is the problem with comedy, and when people get offended, is that people get offended by things because they take it personally, that they believe it's an attack on them. And if you are not making a specific attack on a specific person, right? Like, an example, Norbert, you've mentioned that you have a bit of a stutter there. And what people if you want to talk about, by the way, about the culture of being upset and being offended and stuff like that, didn't start here, okay? So I believe it's a BTO. You're not going to know this, but so I'm just bear with me on this one. The band BTO, I believe, is the band that did a song called "You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet," and
Bachman Turner Overdrive. Yes, I know that song.
There you go. So yes, and it's the the you ain't seen into nothing yet, right? And the people actually got upset by that song because they thought that BTO was making fun of people who had stutters.
I mean, I understand that. I mean, there definitely is a point where people can get overly offended, but in the case of that Family Guy joke, people are specifically offended by that not because it makes they're offended by that joke because they're saying that since it tells you which way to actually cut your in order to kill yourself, they're saying that could actually lead to people watching Family Guy to actually kill themselves, and then Seth MacFarlane or whoever wrote that episode, they would be responsible for a bunch of suicides or something.
I guess. I mean, that's, obviously I think is ridiculous. I don't think that...
I mean, I'm usually watch Mr. Enter's reviews of Family Guy, and he's like talking a lot about different Family Guy episodes and like why you can't just say, oh, it's just a joke or it's just a comedy, and how these actually can lead to real life damage to people's lives. Because I don't know if you've been keeping up with Family Guy like after like during like season 10 or season 8 or whenever Family Guy went downhill. But there's a lot of like really horrible messages in it, and it's supposed to be for comedy. Like I remember there's one other episode of Mr. Enter review where like the message is that you should stay inside of an abusive relationship for the abuser's benefit. Like that's a horrible message, and people are saying again that's another offensive joke that shouldn't exist, and like that joke should not have been made, and that shouldn't even be called a joke because it's not funny.
Well, I guess that's the there's certainly a debate that will always exist there, and I think that there. If that's where you're trying to get to, there can be a line in that regard. Certainly, where something is a joke, there is a format for a joke to a certain degree. You can subvert those in certain ways, and there's such thing as anti-comedy and so on and so forth. However, there are if someone like the great example is. Michael Richards, right? Michael Richards yelling the N-word at people and then claiming, oh, it was a joke, right?
Michael Richards black?
What? No, Michael Richards is not black. Michael Richards is Kramer from Seinfeld. So there was this whole meltdown that he had on stage, very famous meltdown that South Park made fun of as well, where he was being heckled by some black members of his audience, and they were yelling... and then he responded by yelling, "He's an N-word, he's an N-word," and everyone was like, "Oh boy, like what the hell?" So the point of that is that that's not a joke. Like there's nothing that's not comedy. There's nothing formatted about that or anything like that.
People say that like the guy telling you how to cut yourself or saying that you should stay inside of an abusive relationship for the abuser's benefit. That's not comedy either. And therefore, that's their point for why those jokes should not have been made and why those are offensive and they can lead to real life damage.
I suppose. Now, I don't know the jokes specifically, but there are ways to format those as jokes. The examples being the way that Anthony Jeselnik does bits about, I've talked about this, I think, on this very show before, is about Anthony Jeselnik doing an entire bit about taking his friend to an abortion clinic. And the way that he formatted it's clearly comedy. Or, in that same regard, if you follow Meg's arc as Meg being a depressed person. And if she's the one shouting out to Peter, like, no, the instructions for how to do this, the joke is that because she knows, because she's looked this up and she has an intimate knowledge about how to kill yourself because she's spent so much time looking it up and thinking about it herself. Now, again, I didn't see the episode, so I don't know if that is the specific context, but that's how you would write that joke. Like and it is formatted as comedy, so it is a joke. But I think that, there are certainly people that just aren't good comedy writers or that aren't comedy writers. They are just assholes on the internet. So that's just how it is. I'm sure
there's some psychopath murderer who defended him murdering 10 people with it was a joke. It's not a joke.
Perhaps. I don't. Yeah. No, it's just Jeffrey Dahmer. He was just kidding around.
Yeah, he was.
So there you go. See, that's a joke. That's a joke, Norbert. Well,
so were the Columbine killers.
See, now you just took it too far. I'm sorry, man. But anyway, hey, we're gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna try and take some another call or so. But Norbert,
is that talking to you again? Is that talking to you, Buckley? Talk to you again.
I'm sure you will. You can hit me up on the Twitch streams when we do those.
I don't really use Twitch that much, but
well, you don't have to. You just be on Discord. You don't even have to watch the Twitch stream. You can just be on here. You don't even have to know that you're even on a show.
I don't know what time your Twitch streams are on, though.
Well, I haven't figured it out yet. Don't worry about it. We'll see you later, man.
Okay, bye.
Good old Norbert. Everyone loves Norbert. So, you know what? I'll extend this show a little bit longer today. We'll take a few more calls. I'll see if I can't get a few extra questions in here. And you know what? Let's go to the one puppet, Jim Henson Nut-In. Classic guest here on the show as well. I know that I'm not really taking too many additional people, but you know what? One puppet, Jim Henson Nut-In, is always a good caller. So what did you have for a question for me?
I'm happy to be back. I was going to ask, has a piece of media ever made you cry, Buckley? Like a TV show, video game, anything along those lines?
I see. I've made a joke before. I don't know if I've made it in a video or not, but I've made jokes before that as a man, because I'm a toxic man who practices toxic masculinity, that all men are allowed to cry to one movie. It is the very end of the Shawshank Redemption. You are allowed one single tear and then a sniffle, and that is it.
End of it.
And then that's
nothing else.
That's the end. Because the end of Shawshank Redemption is a very touching moment between Red and Andy Dufresne. And fantastic movie. If anyone's never seen it, hopefully I didn't just spoil the whole ending for you, but it is a great film. And I don't think that really spoils anything. It's just telling you it's a touching moment. But
I think I heard from my dad. I think that movie, what was it called? Like AI or whatever. Was that a Shyamalan movie?
AI? No, maybe. You talking about?
Who made that?
You talking about that? No. Oh, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, about the robot kid.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember it came out in theaters around the time when I was really into going to theaters.
Yeah. But my dad, I think he told me the story about where he went to go see that, and afterwards he just sat in his car and cried for a really long time.
I see.
And my dad is not like a super emotional guy. He's more of an angry than a sad type of person. Like he doesn't get sad. He just skips straight to angry.
Right. Well,
so hearing about that really surprised me.
Some people got it real pent up, and then there's a lot of people, for all the people who can't watch Bambi or who can't watch Old Yeller. Hey, you know what? Actually, I will tell you, didn't make me cry. And this is going to be really stupid. It did kind of bum me out. And I couldn't watch the episode again for a long time. Is the episode of Futurama where Fry finds his fossilized dog.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And at the very end, we see the dog waiting for him. Yep. And I remember like watching that for the first time and just being like, holy fuck.
That
Ah,
shit hits
damn.
so hard.
And then
didn't expect that.
I think that they like the writers knew that was too sort of heavy or dark of an ending, and so they sort of, we'll call it, retconned it. Where in the movie, I forget which Futurama movie it was, but there's the one where Fry, it turns out that the one person is Fry, who had gone back to the past. He had he'd singed all his hair off. Anyway, he went back to the past, and he actually got his dog back. His dog was still waiting for him, and he went to his dog and he got the dog back. So there's that whole moment where everyone's like, oh, okay, he's, now it's fine. But obviously at the time I remember that episode. And I actually used to watch, because I have them all on DVD. And, 10 years ago, I'd probably watch those episodes all the time. And I would always skip that one. That one come on, and nope, watch a different episode. Never mind. I know what happens. I don't need to watch this again. So
what do you think about that? Things like that being kind of retconned, or a huge buildup of sadness, and where it's suddenly just kind of thrown out the window, or I guess changed.
Well, as a sort of, I think I've talked about this to a certain degree before, but as a writer, I think you have the right to change your own works pretty much however the hell you want, right? I've defended Lucas somewhat to that regard, is that there's two schools of thought on it, for me anyway. Is that one is that, perfect is the enemy of good. You've heard that phrase, I'm sure, before, where people work on something for so long and they keep picking away at it. Or they've said perfect is the enemy of done. But in this case, those movies are done. But instead, what he keeps doing, or what he kept doing, was going back to them and being like, oh, I could make this better. I could make this better. I could make this better. And then, people say, well, this isn't better. I didn't enjoy this choice. Of course, the differences of Han shooting first, or the big dance number in Return of the Jedi that made it even, more kiddie and even more juvenile than it was with all the Ewok shit. So I think that, but at the same time, it is theirs. It's their creation. And at the end of the day, we are the consumer of it, and we can choose to not consume it if we wish to, of course. But at the end of the day, it is theirs to create and to modify in any way that they see fit.
I go into a lot of emotional media, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to feel something. But, there's usually a happy bit at the start, and I become so attached to the characters in the happy setting that the feeling of dread that I get knowing that something's going to go wrong just hits me even harder. And I do this to myself all the time. I just watched, what was it called? Barefoot Gen. It was a movie about the bombing of Hiroshima, based on a manga written by an actual survivor of the bombing.
Right.
And the first 30 minutes were this nice, happy day-to-day life of this family, and then all of a sudden, the bomb dropped.
Yes.
And I was like, wait, no, please go back. I wasn't ready. Even though I came into this movie knowing it was about the bombing, I was like, never mind. Let's just hope that maybe it'll switch all of a sudden and everybody will be happy. But, it's usually not like that.
All right. Well, we'll leave it on that real somber note, one puppet, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Let's take a few more questions, see if I can't get a couple quick ones in here before 8:30. It's 8:18 right now, so I'll see if I can't get a couple more in. I always let these things kind of just ramble on, unfortunately, and someone said, but I want to know what your questions are. So 24 Nico just says, pick me, Buckley. I want to ask you. I don't know what you want to ask me. So you got to tell me what it is that you want to ask me about. Some of these I can just kind of list off. I'm not going to take callers for these, but this person says, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Beep Boop wants to know what my favorite flavor of ice cream is. I generally go for some sort of chocolate peanut butter or something to that effect. I guess peanut butter. I like peanut butter. I like maple flavors as well sometimes because I'm Canadian. So if you go to the old Marble Slab, I'll get a maple ice cream and then with Reese's Pieces in it. So, or Reese Cups bits, or both, because you can get whatever the fuck you want there at the old marble slab. So there is a idea for you. And someone else says, do you think radio, whatever station it could be, whether it's rock, hip hop, pop, country, or whatever, it could be as the main reason why good music can be discovered? I think they meant, I don't know if they meant can't. I don't know. Maybe I guess I should ask them real quick. So this is a quick call. So Genghis Khan, is that, by the way, how you prefer to have this pronounced, or is it supposed to be, is it a joke about GIFs and GIFs or what? I don't know what's going on here. You're also, I can't hear you, so I'm just talking into the void right now, just to fill time as we, do that. But I had a question for you to clarify on this, and then I will answer it, and then I will move on. Someone wants to know what I think of Howard Stern while I'm doing this, and maybe Genghis Khan will come back. What do I think of Howard Stern? I think that he's a great interviewer. I think that he's moved on. He's evolved to the olden days where he was pretty much just a shock jock, right? So Genghis Khan, I can see some movement there, but unfortunately we are going to have to let you go there. So that question will be left unanswered for now. Let's see what else we have. What's your personal opinion? You know what? Oh, this person's not even in the chat. What's your personal opinion to the opinion of ending the quarantine? I don't think right now is the best time. I think that it's got to end sometime, but I don't know exactly how. I don't know how they're going to end it. Realistically, I think that the way through it is more testing. And I don't think that they're there. I think that we need contact tracing and testing in order to do this. I think in a perfect sort of science fiction-y world, the best option would be some sort of instant test. Like I could picture, I don't know how, I mean, this wouldn't be perfect, but I could picture concert venues where you have to like be tested before you can even go in. And I have no idea how that would actually work. So I'm not Trump here telling you what I think and saying how they should fucking do this. All I'm saying is that would be a way through this if that we were going to get through it. But otherwise, I don't know how the fuck we are going to get through it without that. Who knows? Hard to say. So someone else asks, is the quarantine too hyped up by the people / the media? That's your opinion, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea if it's too hyped up or not. I think that it's still kind of too early to tell. I think that we're seeing a lot of deaths from it. And I don't know. Are we seeing more deaths than we were through the flu? But the important thing to note that A, this isn't the flu, and B, this is another thing that can kill you. It isn't like, oh yeah, but the flu kills all these people. Cool. But now you have the flu, which kills all these people, and another thing that can kill all these people. So I don't know if it's overhyped or what. I think that there's two sides of it. And I think that there are too many people that are overhyping it, and then there are too many people who are underhyping it, and there's no middle ground, and it's no good. And I think that I talked about this in my coronavirus comedy video where I said that at the time, and this was written before everything kind of went fucking nuts, but we need to be prepared, but not afraid. And I think that too many people are afraid, and then there are too many people who are just fucking out there who are just, oh yeah, take my AR-15 down to the fucking Baskin Robbins to protest. And it's like, you're a fucking nutcase. Those people are also fucked, okay? So those people are fucked, and the people that are suggesting we like cower in a fucking corner and never leave our homes is also, they're not doing us any favors either. I think that, you got to go to the grocery store still. I think that there could be potentially safe ways for certain businesses to operate, but there are certainly not businesses that can operate at this time. I don't think that a concert venue can operate. I don't think that we can open up, big venues like that again and have 20,000 people in an arena. Sorry, but I just don't think that we can do that. But I think that there may be ways for restaurants to possibly, open up in some other manner where maybe they have a limited amount of people. And if that's not going to work for them, if they say, well, I can't run a restaurant with, only allowing 10 people in at once when I used to be able to allow in 200 people or whatever the case may be, I don't know. Sorry, I guess then that's not going to work. But again, as I said, in a perfect world, in a sort of sci-fi way, there would just be an instant test. You take it, or, and this is going to sound real, starting to get kind of big brothery, but some sort of home test you had to take that basically linked to an app on your phone or something that you had to show to people. And, it's like, if you want to get into a place, you have to show on your phone that you've taken a test in the last 24 hours and you are suitable to be around society, I guess. But I don't know. It would be pretty, it'd be fucked up too. But, and certainly Americans would not go for that. Americans would absolutely not go for that. So, just how it is. So, let's see if I can find another question here that isn't interesting. It isn't interesting. People say, let's try, you know what? I was trying to avoid COVID-19 stuff today, but Ravenick, I've had you on before, so let's see if we can't get you working again here.
Hey.
Ravenick, whatever you prefer. You had a question for me.
I did. It's about mental health. Also, thanks for having me back on. So a lot of people nowadays, mental health is a lot more aware. There's a lot more awareness to it nowadays, I imagine, than before. Like especially the 90s, which I think is good. But how do you think people who are like stuck in lockdown with people that, like families or just in situations where it can exacerbate a lot of the issues that they may have, because, at least when you're out and about, you can, go to therapy or at least distract yourself, like hell, go to the mall or something. But now we're all kind of stuck at home having to, face each other and all that. So. Right.
I think that, obviously it's going to depend person to person, right? If you don't have a very supportive family and you are quarantined with your family, if you've got sort of these, I guess we'll call them mental health illness or mental illness deniers in your family, then that's going to make it really tricky. And I know that there are some, at least if people who have therapists, they're being still seen or heard, I guess, over the phone. I know that that isn't always the best option, but it is a option, is hopefully better than no option for some people. And outside of that, yeah, I mean, everything's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the better option is kind of like, well, should we then just have let everyone back outside because there's some people that are suffering due to mental illness? Like, I don't know that that's going to work either, right? Like, nothing is good about this whole thing. And it would be interesting, obviously this is a little bit of not about mental health, but if we could go back to the times of the Spanish flu to sort of see realistically how people got on with their day-to-day lives versus now and what we're seeing. Because I know that people will be like, well, this isn't the Spanish flu. And I mean, it is or it is, I don't know. Because at the same time, we know that the reason that so many people died from the Spanish flu was more so due to a lack of knowledge of what it was and a lack of any sort of medical breakthroughs that we have now. That I think that if we were living in those times now and this coronavirus hit us, we'd be fucked, right? And that's where more people die. More people die in not being able to be treated than they do because there's treatment available. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. And we know to a certain degree how to treat pneumonia and things like that. Now, there's just sometimes you get to an advanced age or you have conditions where it doesn't matter, right? Like you can't save them no matter what you do, at least with current medical science. And
well, that's what sucks about anything new, right? Is that there's no. If there was a cure, they'd be like, "Here, everyone, just take this magic thing." But like, okay, well, we're still researching that. They're actually, I read like an article this morning that they're trying to give money to universities, be like, "Hey, whoever figures out the best solution as quickly as possible, we'll give you like 100,000 grant per person or some shit like that." It's like,
right,
they have an incentive.
So I think, your question kind of goes toward, I've seen this on the internet in a few places, is this lockdown better or worse than the number of people who may end up losing their lives or becoming more ill? I don't know if that's the correct terminology, unfortunately, but it's the terminology I'm going to use because of mental illness. And I think that I don't know what those statistics are, and it's obviously always a tough decision, because what we are now talking about then is how do we decide who should live and who should die? And I don't know that that's I don't know who makes that decision, right? So it's tough, but I guess for now we've decided that we don't want to subject people to this virus, because we have seen some cases where people are getting it a second time, that there isn't herd immunity perhaps, and the other part of it is that we're seeing people who don't have pre-existing conditions, or rather maybe didn't know they had pre-existing conditions, and who are, they're still dying out of this. You've got kids who are dying, and it's kind of like, well, this isn't the flu in that case, right? I'm 38. If I get the flu, I'm going to be fine. But if I get this, I don't know. I've heard about 38-year-olds who have had to go on ventilators, and I'm not really too keen on going on a ventilator if I can help
it.
Right,
not at that point in your...
Not at 38.
Better plans for that.
Yeah, I'd like to spend my time doing some other stuff. So
I have a very quick thing just to end on a happy note.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sad stuff. For all of us out at home, and not out, hopefully, what's in your opinion, in terms of advice, what's some productive shit that we could be doing that would be good for us, you think? For people who are stuck at home, stuck with, family, people, whatever, just to not be out and about.
I think that, in a way, this is going to sound stupid, I guess, but the most productive thing you can possibly be doing is just something to keep your mind off it, or something to make yourself happy, at least for brief moments in the day. Outside of that, I don't know. I think there's I've seen these real fucking edgy posts of well, if you haven't come out of this quarantine with your side hustle all worked out, or with a new skill, or with a new language learned, then it wasn't that you lacked time. It's that you lacked discipline. And it's no, man. Yeah, sure, maybe to a certain degree, but at the other end of that spectrum, I don't know how productive you can expect people to be when they are, worried about their jobs, worried about what's going to happen, worried about when they're going to be able to get back into society, and things like that, right? And I think I kind of struggle with that a little bit myself, where I try not to worry about it right now, because it's just because it doesn't matter right now. But when I'm doing all of these things with a Dose of Buckley, and with the Patreon bonuses, and with, maybe I'll start, because I'm not going to do a Dose of Buckley live for at least certainly not weekly or whatever. Are all these things where I'm biting off more than I can chew, when eventually I have to go back, when I have to rejoin real society, especially depending on if Patreon doesn't work out, because at this point, Patreon's doing very well, and I certainly appreciate all the people who are supporting me with that right now. But if this thing continues on for much longer periods of time, I can certainly understand where there are going to be people who aren't interested in continuing to support me, because they need that $5 or that $10 a month more than they need to give it to me, right? And I think that, so at some point, this maybe ends, at least in my head. Maybe it doesn't. For all I know, fucking it doesn't. Maybe maybe I'm doing this for 3 years and people are still giving me enough that I've hit that goal on Patreon that says I'll do this full time. I don't know, right? But at the end of the day, I think that there's certainly a concern that people have about the future that stops them from thinking about the present. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that there are people who that think that they're like, oh, well, you know, don't worry about the future because you can't control it. And it's like, yeah, but fucking try and tell that to someone who is living month to month. And Trump just said, hey, we're going to give you $1,400 or $1,200 for one time. Figure that out. Right. So
it's a lot easier to isolate when you have like a $2 million mansion. Not
exactly.
A paycheck to paycheck setup with an.
So that's one of those things where, oh, well, fucking yeah, but you're a loser because you didn't learn Mandarin during your fucking time off, right? Like, I don't know. It seems pretty, everyone's circumstance is a little bit different. And I think that people need to realize that. So.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. So again, I've already run well past my time, but everyone's like, oh, we want to hear Fuzz. We want to hear Fuzz. Fuzz is a Patreon subscriber, so I guess we're going to hear from Fuzz. So Fuzz, I guess this isn't, I don't know if you have a question for me for question and answer period of time, but we were going to talk about stuff. You wanted to talk more about COVID stuff, which I was trying to avoid for most of the show, but here we are. So are you there?
Yeah, Buckley, do you remember when I commented on your 2013 video and you commented back on me?
I have no, of course.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you, bro. No, I'm a store manager for a large retail store. We're international. I can't say who exactly we are, but
right, but it ends with
you'd be very smart if you took your pets to this place.
Oh, I see.
Very smart. Yeah, very.
Haha. Well,
I know, right?
So yeah, so now this is interesting. Now are people bringing their pets into
they're bringing their pets, which is fine. I mean,
yeah, I guess no, but have you heard that they found coronavirus in a dog or a cat or something?
Well, what they found is that dogs and cats can be carriers.
Right,
they can't
like pigeons
get infected, but they can be carriers. Yeah, exactly. But this bullshit with the whole COVID thing. So we have, the announcements during the radio that says we're doing our best to make sure we do everything for you and all that bullshit. Like, oh yeah, we're doing extra cleaning. We have less hours so we can do more cleaning. They fired our cleaning crew. We're not doing shit.
Right.
Oh yeah. What we're doing is, if you look at all of our sales, we're up year to date 35% throughout the company. And what they're doing is they fired half of our people so they can get unemployment, so the government can take care of them, so they can line their pockets with more money. The other thing they've done is they've suspended all raises from last year, not this year, not 2020, but 2019. They suspended them, so I'm actually making less money than I did last year. They suspended all bonuses because they're worried about the company's future.
Right, the future that is they're earning a shitload more money.
They are earning a fuck ton more money. A fuck ton.
Well, it's funny because I have to imagine that outside of now, I'll give you two things, because one, when things hit big here in Ontario, where are you abouts, by the way, there, Fuzz?
I'm in Utah.
Okay. So in Canada here, in Ontario, things kind of hit big March 13th. I remember specifically because it was the Friday the 13th, and that was the day that everyone really went and started panic buying. And so there was, everyone's out, and it was fucking, nuts to nuts in every fucking store. People buying, up all the toilet paper, buying up all the frozen vegetables, all those types of things, right? And that and now they're still, you know, they got lineups for these places to fucking get in and all this kind of shit, right? And I just think that, like, how are these places not making a mint, especially when, yeah, a lot of them have, you know, they don't talk about that part of it. They talk about how they've given all of their workers a raise, at least here in Ontario and in Canada, things like that, right? But they've given everyone a $2 an hour raise, or they've given them $50 a week bonuses, or whatever the case may be. But there's certainly probably a lot of people who were let go so that they could, you know, maintain certain balance sheets and certainly that kind of a thing. And I think that we don't hear about that part of it. But when we come out of this, there are going to be a lot of companies who did extremely well that we don't really know about, at least right now. And I don't know that we'll ever really hear about for the companies that don't have to really report those earnings and stuff like that. But you're going to see a lot of these publicly traded companies who had fantastic quarters, like Walmart, like the grocery industry, like, you know, things that you're doing there right now. And yeah, you're going to see some of the like smaller restaurants and things like that. They're going to be hurting, and even some smaller restaurant chains and things like that. But I don't know. I drove by a fucking McDonald's the other day, and that lineup was 12 cars deep, and they're not hurting for people. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, no.
So,
well, we got the people around us like a Walmart and Target that are, you know, 500 feet within my building that are making, you know, $2 an hour extra for hazard pay or whatever they want to call it. And that's cool. I appreciate that. I understand that that's going on. But for them to actually take away the pay that we were making last year to do more work, 35% more work, I mean, that's fucking bullshit.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, hopefully, now if they're the only game in town as far as pet stuff goes, but hopefully these are the people who will be remembered when things open back up, and people will make choices to not support these places, but who the fuck knows, right? So, unfortunately, though, we as people have real short memories, and
amen.
We can also, you know, if this place that you work for, you've already said it in the thing, but I'll still try and keep some level of anonymity. But anyway, this place that you work for, all they have to do then is just pick a political alliance or allegiance, and then you got like places like Chick-fil-A who do extremely well because they're the Republican chicken place or whatever, right? So now we support them. So when people go and support your pet store, you know, that they can be like, well, we're the American Patriot pet store. You know, all our dogs know the fucking Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, this state is fucking Republican as fuck. It's bullshit.
So, well, there you go. Well, Fuzz, I appreciate your insight in all this.
Thanks, my dude.
That was Fuzz. All right. Well, you know, again, I'm continuing on here. I don't want to take more stuff about COVID. So if anyone does have a more fun question, I'd love to maybe end on a note like that. But otherwise, and then Cool Beans 24 keeps asking me about axe throwing tips. I don't know how the fuck I can make axe throwing tips vocally. So I'm sorry, Cool Beans 24. Just go watch my 2 axe throwing videos and hopefully that'll provide some. In the meantime, Voyager 2, who is probably very confused because I just threw you into my Buckley chat here, but are you there? Voyager 2.
I am, and I was expecting you to throw in Cool Beans. So yeah.
No, piss on Cool Beans. No, Cool Beans is fine, but no, I just don't have I don't know how I'm going to give you axe throwing tips on, you know, on the radio. That's going to be tough. So Voyager 2, you had a question for me.
Yeah, where do you get your music? Like the bumper music at the beginning of the live chat, or the transition music in the Right Generation video? Like, do you make it? Do you buy it stock?
Yeah, so the I mean, it varies from the piece of music to the piece of music. A lot of it is very like, the very guerrilla YouTuber that it is what it is. My background music that you guys are all familiar with, that people get upset when they don't hear it. That background beat I got from a website years ago, obviously, because I've been using it since 2009. Years ago, that provided specifically free background music for Flash animation and things like that. But the music here, I don't know if this is like one of those like things people don't know about that much, or if it's just not accessible to everyone. But YouTube actually provides a huge amount of free music. It's probably the only thing that I would say that YouTube does that I don't fucking hate about them.
I did not know that. No.
Yeah.
So is it like everybody has access to the same like copyright free?
Yeah. So if you have a YouTube account and you go to YouTube Studio, and I'm just going to click on these things now, and I don't know what to tell you guys if you're not able to follow this along. But anyway, go to your YouTube Studio and click on Audio Library on the very far bottom left. It's underneath copyright and monetization. And when you click on Audio Library, you get free music, there's a whole search, and you can search by genre, by mood, by instrument, by duration. And then you can search, you can search sound effects. And the library is not super deep or anything like that. It's not, I don't know. It's not crazy, but it's not bad, to be honest. It's better than one might expect for what YouTube is giving people for free. Some of them, they want you to attribute it. They just want you to say, like, put their name in not the comments section, into the description of the video. Others, they don't have that stipulation at all, and it's just there. And I guess YouTube has verified that all these tracks are legal to use, but it's pretty so it's pretty cool. And so that's where I got the theme, what we'll call the theme music for A Dose of Buckley Live. This track, you won't be able to hear it, but this track right here, you guys know that one now. And also the intro, that sort of the countdown music, the music that plays right at the very start for that first 4 minutes before we get to showtime. I found that there as well.
Oh, interesting.
So there you go. So go and raid that when you get a chance. Have a listen to some tracks, and you can use it for your own videos or whatever you want to use it for. Because technically, I mean, I don't know how legal it is to use it for other stuff, but it's there and it's free.
Well, I'm not a content creator. I was just curious. But I think that music is, like, I would imagine that you can use it for commercial purposes. Otherwise, what would be the point of letting you use it on potentially monetized?
Yeah, I mean, technically, I feel like it must be there. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. But I don't know what they're, if a radio station decided to like just make a YouTube account to get a whole bunch of music beds for commercials, I don't know how legal that would be, but there it is.
Right. Yeah, that makes more sense. Cool. Thank you, man. Big fan.
Thank you. So, I think we'll probably, I don't know, I don't want to say that wasn't a bad question. I think actually, you know what? I think that was a fine question, because I hopefully taught you guys a little something about YouTube that you guys didn't even know about. So we're probably going to kind of leave it there. We're going to start wrapping things up. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is going to be my last Dose of Buckley live. So that's not my last Dose of Buckley. I just want you guys to know that for sure. This is just my last live here on YouTube for this purposes on a Friday night. I'm still going to live stream on Twitch from time to time. That's twitch.tv/Dose of Buckley. So follow me on Facebook and Twitter, or right here on Discord, or I say right here on Discord, I mean the people I'm talking to on Discord, I guess, or follow me on Patreon, patreon.com/doseofbuckley, and you can support me there, and I'll be definitely letting people know when I'm going to be live doing Twitch streams and things like that. What I want to try and do is spend some more of that time, the time that I spend prepping these Friday shows, to make things that are a little more on brand for a Dose of Buckley. So things like micro doses, which I've been doing for Patreon as well, where it's maybe more of a 3-minute video, but it's, just short, some fun jokes in there, but it's well produced. It's my regular written, voiced, edited, produced content, as opposed to the regular, or as opposed to these live shows where, as you can see, I'm kind of just free-forming it, and I say sometimes, and you can hear my breaths and all that kind of stuff. And I think that would be more productive for me, and I think that would be more interesting for my listeners, my viewers, that kind of thing, the bulk of who want to see it. Because I think that we've found out that, based especially on the last couple of them, but especially based on last week's, 8,500 people listened to last week's A Dose of Buckley Live. And I think that if we can take anything from that, is that I don't have a single other video on my channel that has less than 10,000 views, I don't think. So in that regard, I think that the audience has spoken. They don't want to listen to this. They don't want to listen to 2 hours of me rambling on. What they want to listen to is nice, tight, compact, edited, produced videos that I normally do. That's what you came here. That's what you subscribe to. That's what you're interested in. So there are some people who want to listen to me ramble, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to be on Twitch rambling. That's what I'm going to do. And we'll take phone calls, and we'll have people in. I'll maybe take 2 or 3 people at a time, and we'll talk about all sorts of things. Maybe I'll get you guys to fight with each other or some shit. I have no fucking idea what I'll do, but we'll have some fun. I won't prep for it, and we'll just say, fuck it, let's just do some shit and have some fun, right? And that's what's going on there. But in the meantime, let's talk about what I'm doing over the next few weeks. If I can find out where I wrote all this shit down. I'm just literally moving actual pieces of paper around. So tomorrow, I'm just going to fucking tease these whole things, right? Tomorrow on YouTube, you're going to see a video called Radio Disney, Protecting Children or Parents. That's the name of the video. Radio Disney, Protecting Children, ? Or Parents, ? So that's going to be tomorrow on YouTube. My Patreon audience has already had a chance to see it. If you are on Patreon and you haven't had a chance to see it yet, go to my Patreon. You've already subscribed to it. You're paying for it. You've got access to that video, early access. All my Patreon subscribers always get that. On Patreon on the 29th, my plan is to release Advice Patreon Asked For number 3, I believe. I believe it's the third one of those. So the way that one works, for my Patreon subscribers, they ask me questions. They ask me for advice, and I give it to them. It's basically like advice no one asked for, except they actually asked me for these questions. So that's going to be on there. And that one isn't really a video. It's just audio only, but I do go a little bit longer on those ones. So I believe that this week's Advice Patreon Asked For is like 10 minutes long. So there we go. On the 2nd, I've already got these things all planned out. I already know what I'm doing up until, I believe, the, let's see here. So the 3rd for you guys. And I think I already know what I'm going to be doing for the 10th of May already. But I won't go that far. But on the 2nd, I'm going to be talking about what is probably the biggest song. I'm just going to tease this one. Biggest song on TikTok. Biggest song, biggest current rap song. If you understand what I might be talking about there, it has a dance associated with it. Going to be talking about that song. And I'm going to be doing that for you guys on the 2nd of May. And of course, my Patreon subscribers, they're going to have it available on the 1st of May. So that'll be fun for you guys, right? And, for people who don't know what TikTok is the spiritual successor to Vine. It's a place where you can upload 15-second videos of yourself, generally dancing or singing or things like that. Apparently, I'm teasing this, and everyone in my Discord has no fucking idea what it is I'm talking about. So that's funny. I thought you guys would get it right away. But so I guess you're going to have to wait until the 2nd and find out then. And then the 6th of May for Patreon subscribers, I'm going to do another Patreon Goes Postal. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's where I answer different types of questions, similar to what I've done here, right? Where people just ask me questions, A, about what I've done on YouTube, or B, just in general. There's people have asked me questions about Canada, or someone, I didn't answer this one, but someone asked me whether I'd want to be a horny werewolf or something like that. I fucking can't remember what it was. They wanted me to answer whether I would want to be a horny werewolf or a vampire who was mildly allergic to blood, like it would have me break out in hives or some shit like that. So anyway, I didn't answer that specific question, but I've answered all sorts of other weird questions, and I continue to do that. So that's what's going on. So follow me on Patreon. Oh, and, well, I am going to do something for the regular, what I call Gen Pop now, but my regular subscribers who are not giving me money. But I should tell you that I am releasing. You guys have asked for it, and I answered. Consider this not a request, but something I wanted to do. But I will tell you, next week, as a bonus video, I am releasing, just for you guys, Baking with Buckley. Baking with Buckley coming back on Wednesday. Maybe Wednesday. Let's say Wednesday, because I just said it. Next week. So you're going to get it. It's going to be back for one night only, I suppose. The Discord chat is fucking going nuts right now. I don't know what's going on YouTube. Yep, they're also pretty excited. And I'm going to be bringing that as a bonus video. Now, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can already watch that video. So if you're on Patreon, patreon.com/doseofbuckley, I should probably have that fucking link right there. Support me. Oh, let's say hi to my actual Patreon subscribers again, actually. But support me on Patreon, and you could be watching that video already. It's already there. Go check it out. Fuzz is like, fuck this, I'm looking now. How did you not know about it? You get the alerts from me, I hope, but a lot of people ignoring that, I guess. But check those out. It's already there. You got so much bonus content. Fucking, like, I don't know, not hours, but a lot of time. There's a lot of bonus content on there to watch, to listen to, that I've already made. Subscribe. You'll get access to that already, and access to more moving forward. Anyway, that is a pretty big rundown of what's going on my channel for the next 2.5 weeks. So hope you'll enjoy that. And again, we are going to stream, continue to stream here live, but it'll be on Discord and on Twitch rather than on YouTube, so that I'm not essentially ruining my own brand on YouTube. So that's what we're going to be doing there. But again, I appreciate everyone who listened today. I've appreciated everyone who has listened over the last 6-7 weeks that I've been doing this. And we're going to keep doing this, and I'm going to be I'm going to keep doing a Dose of Buckley stuff. You don't have to worry about that. No burnout. I'm having a lot of fun right now, coming up with all sorts of creative shit. And like I said, I've already got fucking like 3 weeks planned out, having so much fun doing this shit. And I appreciate you guys for supporting me however you can, either via Patreon or via just watching my stuff, sharing that with your friends, with all of whoever it is that might tolerate this shit. Force your family to listen to it, because whatever. What do they got? Where are they gonna go? Right? Nowhere. That's where. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll do this again sometime.